right. Thank you. I want to welcome everybody to the regular City Council meeting of the Stephenville City Council. And it is the official atomic clock is slow, so we're going to go ahead and get started. It's 5:32. I'll call us into session. And the first thing is the pledge, our two pledges, and I've asked Councilman Brandon if he would lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Council Huckabee. Next up is Pastor Ed Ditford from the Cornerstone Assembly of God, and I always want to recognize the Ministerial Alliance for doing this, sending us somebody every week to do that. We always have a backup. And I want everybody to know that the Ministerial Alliance prays for the City Council and City Government every week, and I appreciate that more than I can tell you. All of us do.
It's a great privilege. Thank you, Mayor Savine, council, staff. Appreciate this. I asked if I could show a picture of my office. I love this place, and that's a snapshot sitting across my desk in my office. That was a gift to me, and so I'm really grateful to have that in my office and to call this place home for the last 27 years. And if you count college years, it's over 30. So I don't know if you can count those years or not, but for sure, really grateful to be here and grateful to lift you all up in this meeting tonight. Would you pray with me? Father in heaven, I thank you for the high honor that we have to serve, and I ask you to be with these civil servants tonight as they're giving of their time. I ask you to bless their families and their time away from here as they invest in our city tonight. And I just pray that you would give them your wisdom and your guidance and your direction so that the decisions that are made are decisions that are formed out of unity, but line up what pleases the Lord. We ask your blessing upon this night. We ask your blessing on this city, and we pray that you'd help each one of us to better evaluate how we might serve in our roles so that we can do our very best each and every day to make this a place where people long to be and to raise families. We love you, and we thank you for this opportunity. And it's in Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Ed. Appreciate that. Regular agenda items. First item is going to be recognizing some special ladies in Stephenville, Texas. Before we get up and do that, I just want to give a little introduction here. You know, we're listed on the picture here as the City of Champions. We're also known as the Cowboy Capital of the World, but tonight we're going to be called the Cowgirl Capital of the World. Give equal recognition there. There are many world champions that live in Stephenville, Texas, and call this home. It's interesting because every time one of these ladies gets up and competes at a national level, regional level, or whatever, one of the things they say is from, guess where? Stephenville, Texas. It's a big deal. It's good advertising for us. It shows what kind of community we are and the work that you put in. We appreciate that very much. I invited Bob Doty. I don't see Bob here. Also, tonight we have Mark Aiken over here. He's a coach at Tarleton. Rodeo is a big part of our community. It has been for a long time, and that won't change. It won't change at all. And so tonight we're going to recognize some ladies, Kelsey Chase, Jackie Crawford, and J.J. Hampton. I want to talk about them just a little bit. I did looked up some stuff on the internet today, just to give you some ideas. The Boston Celtics won 17 championships, world, national NBA championships. It took them 48 years to do it. New England Patriots just won their 6th NFL title. I don't know how long they've been around. The Yankees have won 27, which is really impressive. It took them 88 years to do it. We have 3 ladies tonight that combined have 41 world titles. So we're going to recognize those ladies tonight. So why don't you all come up? I want to just talk about it just a little bit. We have some awards for them. How many of y'all, if everybody know Kelsey, I hope you know her if you don't. She's a great little lady. She's from Cherokee, Oklahoma. went to Southwestern Oklahoma State University. She was a 3-time Central Plains Regional Breakaway Champion. And after graduation, Kelsey turned to the, what is that? SWASU, okay, Southwestern, okay. As assistant coach for the rodeo team. She came to Stevensville in 2014. We just give you an idea, she has 6 World Rodeo Association world titles. 2 all-around cowgirls, 2 tie-down calf roping, and 2 breakaway calf roping. Pretty big deal. So what we have here is we have a thank you, some stuff about Stevensville, Texas, and we have a key to the city. This is one of the coolest parts of my job. When we got the key to the city of Stevensville, Texas. Jackie Crawford was born in Springfield, Illinois, before she moved to Salisaw, Oklahoma at age 12. She fell in love with roping. She attended Vernon College in Vernon, Texas, where she earned a National Intercollegiate Rodeo Association National Breakaway Roping title and National Women's title. She moved to Stephenville to attend Charleston State University. I guess Bob was one of your coaches also. You know, and that's the other thing. Bob was, how many times he won the national championship? 2 times? 2 times at Charleston, then he won some up at Camden, Texas as well. Since graduation, Jackie enjoys training roping horses, holding clinics all over the world, of which you want to make sure that gets good advertising. She has these clinics. You want to sign up for that. She has 8 all-around cowgirl titles, 5 tie-down calf roping titles, 2 breakaway calf roping titles, and 3 team roping heading titles. I want to say congratulations, Jackie, 18 national champions, world championships. Gift from Stevensville, Texas.
Thank you so much.
You bet. We appreciate y'all. Now, J.J. Hampton. A fixture around here. You know, until this year, she had the record, didn't you? 17 championships.
I think one Bush may have more than us, but.
Oh, okay. 17 champions. She was born and raised in Stevensville, Texas. Her mom is sitting right over there.
And her
My
grandma.
grandmother
And
Helen.
grandma.
Her
Grandma
grandma's
Helen.
sitting over there.
Yeah. My sister Angie, my husband Ricky, and my son Casey.
Everybody knows Hannah. Bunch of y'all.
There it is.
Matter of fact, you got an award recently for the Girl Scouts.
That's right, I did.
Recognition, so we appreciate that. She used to, let me see, she was from 1994 to 2000, she won 17 Professional Rodeo Association world titles, 6 times all-around cowgirl, 4 times tie-down calf roping, 3 times breakaway roping, and 4 times team roping header, as well as lots of other titles and awards. Congratulations. As long as she's lived here, we've never given her the key to the city, so we want to make sure that she gets a copy of that. Make it look a bit older since you should have gotten it a long time ago. Thank you so much. Everybody recognize these ladies as champions.
All right, let me copy that key so I can keep one, please. Okay, thank you. Okay, congratulations, yes ma'am. Very nice, thank you very much for coming.
How much better than that? Ed, you're right. We're a city of champions. Lots of them. Whether it's cowboys, cowgirls, football. We have volleyball championships. Think about all the championships we have in Stevensville, Texas. That's right. Exactly. Which is what we're recognizing tonight. All right, next item on the agenda. Thank you, ladies. Thank y'all for coming. We make sure he gets a picture. I told him he's going to get a picture. Put him in the paper. Make sure he gets in the paper tonight. There you go, right there. Look at him. Yes, ma'am.
Before we leave, is that I just appreciate y'all so much, and I want you to know that I've said this before in a meeting here, so I'm try to remember this, but I have been lucky enough to go teach clinics all over the world. I mean, from Sweden, Australia, I've been all over the place. And the first thing that happens when you say Stephenville, Texas, you're from Stephenville, Texas, cowboy capital of the world. I mean, everybody recognizes that, and they love it, and everybody wants to come here. The people that come to the schools at my house every time, they always want to go. Stephenville, Texas, heartache, you know, it's, they know it all over the world. So thank you guys for keeping that tradition alive. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you for spreading it around Stevensville, Texas. Thank y'all. Next item on the agenda, citizen general discussion. I have one request, Ms. Shelby Slauson. Get ready, get your checkbook out. How much you want to give?
Mayor, Council, thank you for giving me just a couple of minutes this evening. I'm Shelby Slauson, and I am here with an agenda. I want to have lunch with you on Friday, March 8th. I'm extending this invitation to you on behalf of Backpack Buddies of Erath County to come down to our 3rd annual Burgers for Backpack Buddies. This is the 3rd year that I've come down here and invited you to this, and this is why I keep coming. The decisions that are made in this room by this governing body have a profound effect on a class of citizens who aren't likely to cast a ballot with your name on it, but who nevertheless depend on you and on me to keep them in mind as we plan for the future of Stephenville. And that group is the students here in Erath County, and more specifically in Stephenville ISD. In the shortest distance between 2 points, maybe, proper nutrition is vital to the educational and vocational success of the students. And the educational and vocational success of our young people is vital to the success of Stephenville. Backpack Buddies has a very simple mission. We provide packages of weekend food to kids in our community who might not have anything to eat between the time they leave school on Friday and they come back to school on Monday morning. We are a nonprofit, all-volunteer organization funded entirely by local donors. It costs us $5 to feed each child each weekend, and there's no cost to the children in the program. Food is our only expense. Through very generous provision in our community, we have no overhead, no employees, just food costs. This winter, an average of 278 students in Erath County are receiving food from Backpack Buddies. This week, 145 of those are in Stephenville ISD. Today, right up the street at Central Elementary, 42 of our littlest learners are at risk of weekend hunger. 42. That's 2 full kindergarten classrooms worth. And I haven't counted heads in here, but that's pretty close to the amount of adults that are in this room this evening. Childhood hunger is a very stark and sobering reality right here in our hometown. But the good and beautiful news is that we are a community who loves and provides for our children. And Friday morning, 42 bags of food will be delivered to Central Elementary and very discreetly distributed by the teachers and counselors to 42 little ones so they have something to eat this weekend. So I'm here just asking 2 things of you this evening. One, that you'll remember these children, these little ones who aren't your voters, but who are our future. And 2, that you'll come have lunch with me Friday, March 8th, Stephenville City Park from 11 to 2. For $5, we'll serve you a hamburger, chips, and a cookie. And because we have very generous donors providing everything we need for this cookout, we'll take your $5 and use every penny of it to feed local kids. So I appreciate your time. I have tickets, and I'm going to be here every bit as long as you are this evening. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anybody have any comments or questions for Shelby? As last year, I'm going to challenge the city council to participate tonight by making a donation. Brady and I have agreed that we're going to both give $500, and so we encourage everybody up here to the table to write a check, give to Backpack Buddies. Appreciate your help.
Thank you.
So Shelby, don't leave until you get some checks. Next item on the agenda, racial profiling report. Chief?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Once a year, I come before y'all as required by law to present our racial profiling report. Last year, if you remember, Dr. Alex Del Carmen, who does our analysis and puts our report together, actually came here and presented the information. So we'll move through it. In the agenda, you have the entire 104 pages, but we'll move through a few slides that show some of the key data, and we'll also discuss some of the changes that were different this time around versus in the past because of the legislation enacted out of the 2017 legislature. The first part of it is the cover letter that Dr. Del Carmen writes to the mayor and the council about the audit, and the main part of that letter is that it talks about how we're in compliance with the law. And he does that right up front and lets everybody know that we've met our requirements and done what we're supposed to do. This was also in another part of what he writes, and I just thought it was very accurate. In the middle of that paragraph, he talks about this being the most significant legislative act in Texas history regarding data requirements on law enforcement contacts. And that is exactly what happened in 2017. And so the first part will look a lot like it has in the past. It tracks the total number of vehicle contacts. One of the things that was different in the past, because we had cars that had video cameras in them, we presented what was called Tier 1 data. We only presented data that resulted in an arrest or a citation, and that's what the law prescribed. With the change in 2017, there is no longer Tier 1 data. They want what's called Tier 2 data, so that is every contact, every traffic stop that the police department makes, and so that's what this information tracks. The next slide compares those contacts and breaks them down by race and ethnicity, and then shows the comparison between those numbers to the comparison of the community makeup. What we use for the baseline here is known as the Fair Road Standard. It is different than regular census data, which includes the entire population. Fair Road Standards includes that population which has access to vehicles. So it creates a smaller pool, but different civil rights groups and organizations like that recommend that to try to get a better baseline, and so we have always agreed with that and used that for our comparison analysis. This is the same information, just presented in a bar graph. The next slide is our searches. There were 133 searches that were performed by officers on the side of the road this year. Again, this next slide is the same information by bar graph that breaks down the total number of searches, those that were consent, and those that resulted in arrest. Something that was new this year is well, no, this was part of the same thing. One of the things that we have to determine to keep track of is how many times did officers know the race or ethnicity of the person prior to making the traffic stop. Out of 3,107, that occurred 108 times. So 2,999 times they did not know the race or ethnicity of the person that they were stopping. This is one of the new things of the law this year. We're asked to keep track of instances where a peace officer used physical force on the traffic stop and it resulted in bodily injury to somebody that was in the vehicle. We had one instance of that where a taser was deployed, and so because of that, we counted that as one instance where that happened out of the 3,107 contacts. This is just a further breakdown of the search data by race and ethnicity. Another requirement of the law, we have been doing this since approximately 2010, but this year it became law, is we do quarterly audits on our data as we go through the year to make sure that what we're doing and what we're going to report at the end of the year is accurate. So we do audits on the data and search data throughout the year with Dr. Dale Carmen's company to ensure that as we're going, we're complying with the law and we're getting an accurate picture of what the officers are doing out in the field. We also have to track the number of complaints on racial profiling. Again, there were none, and there haven't been any in the past either. We are now required to collect several types of information that we did not have to collect in the past. One of which is the reason for the stop, and it breaks it down into the 5 categories. We have to break down city street, U.S. highway, county road, state highway, or private property. On searches, they want that breakdown of consent, contraband in plain view, probable cause, an inventory, or incident to arrest. And then we further have to break down the searches where we found contraband into the 6 categories that the law provides. So they wanted much more data, and then they want analysis with that data. As part of this law, chiefs and sheriffs are charged to not only do the audits, but have an analysis on the data to be able to speak to what the data shows. And they put in some pretty good penalties for us if we don't do that. And the last piece is what Dr. Del Carmen's analysis was, and towards the end, the report demonstrates that the police department has incorporated a comprehensive racial profiling policy, currently offers information to the public on how to file a compliment or complaint. We commission quarterly data audits in order to ensure validity and reliability, collects and commissions the analysis of the Tier 2 data, and ensures that the practice of racial profiling is not tolerated. And so, clean report. And I'll answer any questions.
Any questions for the chief?
I got a couple
Yes,
personal
sir.
questions, probably more than
Okay.
the city, but, so talk to some, this data strictly comes from just traffic stops. I mean, obviously it's not related to executing search warrants or any of that
Correct.
stuff, so. I mean, would like DWIs and stuff fall into that category?
Every traffic stop.
Okay,
So
that's
this
not
law has
on a
undergone changes. The 2001 law was the original,
Uh-huh.
and it was what was known as self-initiated traffic stops, or back then motor vehicle stops and
Correct.
pedestrian stops. I believe the next law change was 2009.
Okay.
We did away with pedestrian stops and went to traffic stops versus motor vehicle. And it became to encompass all of them, whether it was self-initiated or it was a call about a DWI or something like that. So it is all
Traffic.
car stops, all vehicle stops.
And so I guess tell me real quick, in the data, what was the total number of arrests you guys made for 2018?
Off of traffic stops?
The 6B, is that the one that depicts that?
Hang on. Let me back up. Number 56 sounds right. Let's see, 3107 stops, 704 tickets, 2,395 verbal
37.
warnings.
Page 83 says 37.
37 custody arrests.
That's the arrest. And what's the difference between on 6, table 6, talks about 23 as far as, I guess those are evidence cert now.
Table 6. Yes, that's search data.
Okay. Okay. So I guess in that 37 would include those 23 then? Or would those be two separate numbers?
They may be two separate
That's what I was
numbers.
thinking.
Yes,
Okay.
because the total number's higher.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, total arrest is not one of the categories, which is, not everything about the law is always perfect, as
No.
you well know.
You kidding me? Okay, that's all I had, thank you.
That's why we have attorneys
Let's not go there.
for the chief. Do those numbers also include traffic accidents, chief?
No,
It's just a stop, but
correct.
not an
It would
accident.
be a stop initiated by a police officer.
Okay, all right.
Any other questions? This report we have to accept? I have a motion to accept. Do we have to do that?
I don't know, I just merely have to present it to you.
Okay, just presentation.
Yes, sir.
Chief, I want to say thank you to you and all your staff. Everybody up here at the table, up at this bench, say you guys do a great job. We hear lots of good stuff about you, and we appreciate your attitude and all your staff's work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Next item, consider a request for Habitat for Humanity for a waiver of land fees. I guess that's Jeremy?
Mayor, Member Council, Erath County Habitat for Humanity is asking the council to waive or reduce the city landfill fees for a property located at 754 West Sloan Street. The building is currently being used for storage or surplus supplies in extremely poor condition. The Habitat for Humanity is undecided on what they plan to do with it in the future, but they are looking to do something with it, so they're asking, similar to their request back in April, to either reduce or waive the permit fees, and I got a couple aerials. I know your packet, the picture's terrible in there. I noticed that today, so I apologize, but that's the property at 754 West Lone. So it is commercial property. I know, I didn't see Casey here. Is there a member from Habitat here? Casey Cumby was gonna come, but I guess he didn't show up, so we may not have a member from Habitat here, but you have the letter in your packet.
Any questions?
I have a couple of questions, Jeremy, if I might, and I wish someone from Habitat was here, but
Me too.
if they're not certain what they're gonna do with this property, is this request premature, or are they gonna do the demo work regardless? I'm not quite clear on that. Last time they had a specific purpose in mind and a plan, and I'm curious about why that's not the case this time that comes with this request perhaps.
I think that was a question I asked for them, and they didn't really have a project that they had in mind at this point. I know they've talked about there's a storage unit there. They're talking about improving that and utilizing it for Habitat for Humanity, but I don't think they have a project like they do where they rehab a house, and bring a family in. So it wouldn't be the same type of request that they made back in April, where they had a family in mind and it was
Right,
revamping
it was
the
quite
neighborhood.
specific then, if my memory is correct.
Right.
Do they own this property?
Yes, they do own the property.
Okay.
So I wish I had more for you. I was hoping they were gonna be here. I had made contact, even as of this afternoon, I had talked to them and they, I guess, intended to be here. So,
Other questions?
So no indication of any kind from them on a dollar amount. They came forward with a dollar amount they were looking for last time, so this is just a open-ended, is that?
well, I think you guys end up putting the dollar amount on it. I don't think they necessarily had that. They kinda knew, the
You kinda
bulk.
I think you provided some of that, what you thought the landfill fees would be, the gate fees would be, and what the permits would be for
Right.
a house of that size and whatnot. So I think there was something to decide on last
Right.
time.
And I don't think we don't have any of that information for you at this time. And I was hoping they were gonna be here to be able to answer some other questions for you.
Is this on a fast timeline, or do you
I don't
know?
think so. They don't have a time frame, so I guess at this point, if I had to give a recommendation, I'd say, you table it or postpone that decision until they can come and present something to you, if I had to recommend
would certainly
anything.
be comfortable with that, having a more complete understanding of what they're asking for and then what their plans are after that.
Right. And I wish they were here because we could get more answers, so I apologize.
Alan, we're gonna have a special council meeting probably the 12th, so we could add that to the agenda if y'all wanna do it, if you wanna defer to that.
I would prefer to do that myself. I don't know about the pleasure of the other.
Anybody else
council
have an
members.
issue with that?
I think that it should be deferred so they're here.
Okay, then we'll just table it and we'll bring it back up at our meeting on the 12th.
I'll
if
make
we still have
contact
that
with
meeting.
them.
Need a motion to table that, Mayor? I think we do.
Okay, you have a motion to table?
I'll make that motion if I think that's what we need.
Okay,
To your
Alan makes the
question,
motion.
I was just gonna say, one other thing is that when they do come to present, because one of the things they mention here is, in their letter, is possibly selling this property. And that's different to provide, fees for destructing something if we're not gonna build a house, so that.
I agree. I think with
question I
that,
answered.
with that particular case, and I'll let them speak to it, but they were talking about being able to demolish that building on there so they can sell it and somebody else redevelop it. And so, but I'll let them speak to any of that information, but I will bring that to their attention that you had a concern about that.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion by Alan and a second by Mark. It's what order I'll take it. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Okay, we'll table it till the next meeting of the 12th or when we can get them here. Thank you. Fifth item is a public hearing regarding the adoption of the following trade codes. Is that you also, Jeremy?
I think so. Give me just a second. City's building board, plumbing board, mechanical board, and electrical board have all provided with and reviewed the 2015 International Building Codes, the 2015 International Residential Code, 2015 Existing Building Code, 2015 International Energy Code, 2014 National Electric Code, 2015 Mechanical Code, and 2015 International Plumbing Code, 2015 Fuel and Gas Code, and 2015 International Fire Code. The respective boards unanimously recommend adoption of these codes with amendments developed by North Texas Council of Governments, as well as staff recommended amendments And so staff recommends the adoption of the listed codes with the 2015 International Property Maintenance Code. Local contractors will be notified of the code updates along with copies of the amendments. If I could just, give a little recap. About a year and a half ago, we were told our codes were out of date because we're under the 2009 codes. Typically, you need to be roughly within 5 years of those building codes, otherwise the ICC will come and possibly lower your IOC rating. So, working with Robert Turk, we came up with what we thought was a good process to make sure we had good feedback from our boards and from our builders. And it's been a very good process. We've a lot of open communication, and so some of the amendments that we've proposed really met the expectation of our builders. I want to personally thank Robert Turk, our building official. He's a great guy. He's got lots of knowledge, lots of experience with trades, but he's got a lot of friends in the industry too, and he's well respected by the builders, and he's done a lion's share of this work. And so I appreciate Robert for all the work he's done with this, and with that, we recommend approval of the trade codes.
Okay, we have a public hearing on this, so we'll move into public hearing at this point. Is there anybody that'd like to make comments in favor of the adoption of those trade codes mentioned earlier? Hearing none, does anybody want to come oppose? Have comments opposing? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to ask one question.
Yes, sir.
Before we get
Go
to
ahead.
Ken.
I would
So,
also, Mayor.
so Jeremy, if these are adopted tonight and we follow these codes, when do they take effect, and how does that impact something that's already going on?
Well, they'll be vested under the current code, so anybody who has an application that's already been processed is vested under the current codes. One of the things, and we'll take them effect tomorrow or whenever the ordinance is signed, which would be tomorrow. We'll go ahead and start that process, but anybody who has an application, I mean, if somebody comes in even tomorrow and puts in an application, we're gonna honor those codes. You won't see a significant difference where it's gonna make a significant impact on anything. But we've also, talking with builders, I mean, we're gonna take the common sense approach and, make it all work. So our inspector and Robert, they do a great job working with builders, and so I don't think that'll be an issue.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Well, you answered one of my questions. I was gonna ask, have you had an opportunity to get some input from the local builders, contractors, et cetera, and see, I don't wanna have issues with this like we've had in the past.
Yeah.
And sometimes we had a significant amount of negative feedback after we adopted some of these codes. We don't wanna stifle growth, but at the same time, we wanna be in compliance with accepted standards. And I assume that all the contractors that were available have been contacted and are in agreement that this is the way we need to go.
I feel like they have, and we've been working on this for over a year. So anytime we get a developer that come in that we knew was a developer, we'd sit down and be like, hey, just so you know, codes are coming up. You got anything that you want amended out? I mean, we feel like we've done a good job with that. When we sat down, me and Robert kind of devised a plan for this. It was about, what we need to come up with a uniform code that worked. And when I say uniform code, I mean, what is Granbury doing? What is Weatherford doing? Because some of these builders are working in both, all these communities. So we wanted to try to get very close to what they were doing, so that way when builders came to our community, it wasn't something off the wall. A big part when I got here, I know that you guys were trying to adopt new codes and ran into quite a bit. A big part of that was the energy code and, requiring duct testing. We don't have a lot of locals that do that, so it was going to be some additional costs. That was one of the things that we were able to amend out of the code. The energy code was that requirement, and after that, it was pretty easy conversation with builders. I mean, I don't think there was anything else that we had but I feel like we've done a good job getting the word out that we were doing it, and anytime one of them came in, I'd come down and we'd sit down there and talk and ask if there was anything that we could do to help, so.
And I want to commend you and your staff on that. I know you've done an outstanding job, and I want to give you a plug for the fact that after these are implemented, if someone has questions, concerns, needs help understanding or complying with, y'all are always more than ready to help. And I appreciate that, and I know they do too, but everybody needs to understand that. It's not just slamming the door and this is the way it is. There's much more to it than that.
Right, and that's a big part of Robert and Terry, our building inspector, and of course Shira. I mean, they're great staff. They're easy to work with, so.
make you look good.
Anybody else? Other
It's hard
questions?
sometimes.
Hearing none, do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt ordinance number 2019-0-01, which would update all of the existing codes to the 2015 edition.
Hear a motion, a second? Second. Brandon? Any further discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor of adopting ordinance 2019-001, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Thanks. And I want to say also, one of the things I hear all over town is how cooperative the city is in helping developers and builders, and sometimes it's great to hear that about y'all. Thank you, Jeremy, and your staff. Okay, we're gonna change the agenda, just a little bit. Don't sit down. We're gonna move tourism down. I'm sorry, Julie. Where's Julie? Sorry. We're gonna move you down one. We're gonna move to, item 6. We have some people here that need to be heading back to Houston, so we're gonna rearrange the agenda. Jeremy, planning and zoning. And also, by the way, we're going to remove item 4 from the agenda tonight.
So where are we going? We're going to just plain zoning commission,
We'll
starting
just go the
number
whole
1?
thing. Yes, just do item 6, Roman numeral 6.
I don't have item 6 is Moolah Fest is mine, or item 6 is the future land use.
Well, we're gonna go
Wanna
down
just
to.
start with planning and zoning commission
We're
as
going
work
to
through it?
Roman numeral 6.
Okay. Oh, you went Roman numeral on me. I was looking at the regular. I'm
There you
sorry.
go.
I apologize.
I understand. I went
Sorry.
to college and, they taught me those Roman numerals. Okay, item 6,
Okay, I'm with you now.
Planning and Zoning Commission. I kinda threw you for a loop there.
Yes. Hold on, let me get my bearings now. Roman numeral 6. All right, I'm there now. All right. On January 16th, the Planning and Zoning Commission met. A few items that were on the agenda, and this is a staff report for and a recap of that meeting. The Planning and Zoning Commission has elected Lisa Latouche to serve as chairperson and Dr. Richard Petronas to serve as vice chair for 2019. The Planning and Zoning Commission also did hear a recommendation, the city to amend the zoning ordinance, adding a sweepstakes facility as a conditional use in the permitted uses within the retail commercial district. And upon request, Paige Rankin was going to be permitted, was going to submit an application for that use. The commission unanimously voted to table this action until the applicant or a representative could speak to the city attorney about the operations of the sweepstakes. This will be heard at the next meeting, February 20th. The next item on the agenda for that meeting was sign regulations and billboards. The action was to prohibit off-premise signs. As part of the zoning commission, their work plan, they wanted to look at that item as we look into 2019 and how those would be handled. The Planning and Zoning Commission made a motion to table that action until April. However, our rules of procedure don't allow that, so the next February 20th meeting, they will bring a recommendation to council. This all kind of started with quite a bit of conversation about, how we handle those billboards. The thought was that we were going to, come up with designated areas and a more, concrete policy on billboards. And so the action was going to be to prohibit those until we could figure out which direction council wanted to go and actually come up with a policy that was a little more concrete. So at that meeting, besides tabling it till April or wanting to table till April, we'll hear that in February. The Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend to council maybe putting together a committee for that. And while you guys don't have to entertain anything the Planning and Zoning Commission suggests to you, I do think it's a good idea that we at some point put together a committee to look at that while we're working through this.
Any questions?
Well, as part of that committee, if we set that up, the man from Lamar Signs was there, and he gave an excellent presentation on things you should consider as you look at that ordinance. So I hope that we have him back. I mean, we asked him if he would meet with the committee or meet with the council, because he did have some excellent recommendations. Because we just kind of left it open with no parameters, and we need some parameters for that sign ordinance. So I hope we'll have him in to talk with us.
I have talked to him, you know, part of my recommendation is not to have them on that committee, but for him to go ahead and look at that, whatever we come up with. And he's a little hesitant to actually be on that committee. I know that, VW Stevens, you know, being in commercial real estate and, you know, the experience, I think he's, showed some interest in serving on that. I think he would be a good one, but I guess we'll take this to I recommend we take it to a committee, and then we'll decide on that board or that committee for that.
Any other questions, comments? Okay,
Does it take council action
That does not.
to initiate that committee?
I think we'll just bring it to you at a committee level, and then we'll do it from there.
Okay.
Unless you guys have another thought, or
I'm asking
Mr. Barnes
legal
does.
minds.
I think you can bring it to committee like he suggested
Okay.
without action.
anybody else? Okay, next item.
What's the?
Yes,
I
that's
just wanna make
number
sure
two, it's
I'm
not a
on
Roman numeral, it's number two.
it. All right. All right. So the case number PD 2019-001 is a request for plan development zoning classifications of HS development being lots 5R, block 139, city edition, city of Stephenville. The applicant has met the requirements of development plan for plan development. Planning and Zoning Commission met on January 29th and unanimously recommends approval of the plan development zoning district. A plan development districts are designed for greater flexibility and discretion in the application of residential and non-residential zoning for increased compatibility and the more effective mitigation of potential adverse impacts in adjacent land that is impossible or that is possible under standard district regulations. It is recognized that the desirable for certain areas of the city to be developed in accordance with development plans prepared, approved as part of an ordinance authorizing the zoning necessary for the proposed development. Let's see if you guys should have most of this in your packet, so I don't want to just read it verbatim to you, but improvements in the PD district are subject to conformance with the development plan, meaning whatever they approve tonight is what it is. If they make any changes to that development, they will have to come back to P&Z and come back to council for approval. So different than a zoning regulation where if you have a commercial district and the use goes away, a building gets tore down, you can bring in a whole list of permitted uses. With the planned development, if something happens to the building in 20 years or you know they decide to sell it, it has to come back. If the building goes away and somebody wants to construct something else, they would have to come through P&Z and council to change anything on that plan. Let's see. Let me see if I got a couple slides. So this is the area in question here. So you'll see it off Washington. McElhaney is the cross street. Smaller picture might be better in your packet. The zoning in the district, you'll see that we have some two different classifications of zoning. It's neighborhood business is the orange that you see. The pink in the back is multifamily, and so there's an apartment complex on the back of McElhaney and McNeil that they have purchased too, and that'll be part of that development. The future land use that's currently in place is in red. That's the commercial, and the multifamily is in pink for future land use. So this is an overall view of the site. This is what the units will look like. This is kind of has the heights. This is the site plan for the development. If I will, I'll go back into some of the standards that's going to be required of them or that's proposed. So the setbacks, the developer is proposing a building setback line of the right-of-way of 25 feet. The proposed rear setback of the property is 20 feet. It complies with the zoning ordinance. The side setback proposes 10 feet, also complies with the zoning ordinance. The building height is proposed at 60 feet 4 inches. The top to the top of the building. In R3 zoning is 35 feet. So that is something that'll be called out in the plan development and created. The plan development proposes 139 units on 3.5 acres. The zoning complies with the zoning ordinance and the density requirements, which would be 44.13. The landscape coverage, they do have a landscape plan in your packet. You should have that. that meets 15% of the site and that needs to be landscaped in the area. The parking requirements, plan development will provide 192 parking spaces in addition to 10 spaces that will be located in the right-of-way that will be bringing an encroachment agreement with to council at our next meeting. The zoning regulations require 231 parking spaces, so HS Development is proposing that as part of the plan development. There is no masonry requirements in our zoning ordinance, but they are proposing the exterior structure be 45% brick and stucco, with the remaining being lap siding. Fire protection, being that it is a 60-foot building, the apartment structure will be protected by NFPA 13 life safety fire sprinkler system that is required by our fire marshal. They have reviewed the structure, and that should meet the fire protection for the facility. Of course, you know, we don't have the detailed plans, but it will have to meet those requirements. The plan for amenities, the plan development proposes both active and passive activity amenities for the residents and their guests. These include a swimming pool, outdoor living, barbecue grills, fitness center. The zoning ordinance does not have amenity requirements for that zoning district. The accessory use, the plan development proposes a retail space, leasing center, clubhouse, study rooms, game room, maintenance area, enclosed trash collection facilities, limited access gates, and other accessory uses. These all comply with the zoning ordinance requirements. Signage, signs shall be erected, placed, located, and maintained in accordance with the sign ordinance. You have a list of the codes that they'll be participating in. They are vested in those codes versus the 2015 codes, which we just adopted. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended a concept plan, and then further on January 29th unanimously approved the development plan. The development will meet the parkland dedication requirements. They will need the encroachment agreement. The 29, they're going to be short for the variance for the 29 parking spots. But I've looked at other cities and other developments similar to this, and they can speak to this a little bit. I've got two representatives here. You know, sometimes student housing in some cities carries different parking requirements, and so they can speak a little bit to that. They have some other developments that it hasn't been an issue with those parking requirements. Let's see, this is the landscaping plan, not very good up there. This is kind of the looking down on it with the pool and amenity area there. With that, I can entertain any question. Mr. Steve Helm and Harold Soul, that's right, are both here, can answer any questions about the development. They have performed a traffic analysis for the area, and I'll do my best to summarize it. Mr. Gene Calvert is here and may be able to help with if there are additional questions. But so the traffic analysis showed that there was, if I don't get my numbers crossed on me, an additional impact of 38 cars in the AM. I think there's like 79 in the PM. So you're looking at an impact of 100 and something extra traffic passes for the day. However, so on the Alexander and Washington intersection is probably the most concerned area. It would drop that rating down on that intersection to like a D. I think it's at a C right now. Drop it down to a D. But the traffic analysis proposed that if the developer restripes that intersection and puts a turn lane in and makes it a 3-lane, that it actually improve what it is right now if they make the line improvements to that. And then also will have a right turnout lane in front of their development, so it won't be on Washington. There won't be. Let's see if I can go back, see if it shows up. Can't really see it on this picture, but there'll actually be another lane because they do have to dedicate right-of-way, so there'll be an extra lane for the turnout, so that when people are turning out or turning right, they won't get stuck in that traffic and be waiting. Of course, there's also an exit or entrance off of McElhaney as well. So with those two improvements, and the other part of the traffic analysis was saying that the pedestrian area along Washington does need to be improved. That'll help the traffic flow as well. And with the TxDOT program they're trying to do, there are some counted pedestrian. There's a pedestrian crossway in I think 2 locations along Washington that's being proposed by TxDOT in the future. So With that, now I'll turn it back over to them, or if you guys have any questions that I can answer, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Any questions?
Yes, sir.
I've got several.
Okay.
Okay.
So I've seen the map of the adjacent property owners that would have received a letter on this rezone request. What do the neighbors have to say?
I have not, the only one comment that we got was when the concept plan was submitted, one of the neighbors on McElhaney, and I don't remember, I think she's across the street on McElhaney. She had a concern about the ingress egress off of into all McElhaney. She didn't want additional impact over there, and so we told her about there's going to be ingress egress on Washington. That helped assure that there was two, but at that point we told her that it would all be dependent upon TxDOT, agreeing to that ingress egress. So that was her concern at the at that meeting. I haven't heard anything from her since, or any other property owners in the area. So
Thanks. So, looking at that map that you had up there, the current zoning that's around there, you've got R3, you've got neighborhood business, and then commercial. Explain to me, Jeremy, how putting a planned development, a different zoning type in that area, explain to me how that's not considered spot zoning.
well, spot zoning is a lot of people don't like using that word. I know I've used it in the past, and I hesitate because you want uniform development. And so, what you have is you have a development that, it's a unique situation where you have some different requirements that our zoning doesn't allow. Planned developments are an accepted common practice among planners, throughout the nation. So, planned developments are a legal use. It's been reaffirmed through the courts, and so planned developments is just like any other zoning. It's discretionary. So if you guys don't like the planned development or don't like a zoning, you guys have that discretion to approve or deny. And
Also, Mr. McClellan, in another city that I worked in close to the Metroplex, excuse me, all housing subdivisions were done as PDs. So it is a very, very common practice. It's new to us, but it's been used for.
And we have 4 or 5 that are, I think, using the future land use. I think we got 21 acres of planned development within the city. So, it's not like it's necessarily new to us. We don't use it as frequently as some communities do. So I think in this situation, I think it's a good fit because of what they're looking to do and possible commercial use down, and even some of the height restrictions. So, and that's with the planned developments in the past they've used. The Grove was one that, I think it was 55-foot height. Bosque Crossing was 55-foot height. Both of those were planned developments in those, and so they use it as a tool for those. And not to say because those were passed, we have to pass ours. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that it was a tool used for those developments as well.
Okay, I just got one more.
Okay.
So you addressed the traffic concerns, because I think most folks in town are at least somewhat familiar with the SISD traffic pattern that comes down McNeil and then Ollie Alexander and Washington at particular times of the day. So, and you say that you've looked at it and you're satisfied that it's not going to have a terrible impact. If it does the city have any leverage to try to change the way that intersection is timed or configured, or to try to ease that? Do we have leverage?
I'm glad you asked that, because that is part of that intersection. So not only is it the lining part of it, but the intersection will be, the timing of those lights will be changed, and so that'll help. And so, like I said, between those two at that intersection, it'll actually improve, it's projected to improve the score of that intersection by making those 2 changes to that. So timing will be part of that as well. So.
Yes, sir.
Jeremy, I've got 2 or 3 questions also, and
Okay.
I've already talked about some of these things.
Mhm.
That it's a 5-story proposed building, is that correct?
60 feet, I'm pretty sure, was it 5 or 4? 5 stories, yes, sir.
And did you say how many units were proposed?
139 units.
Okay.
Is that right? You guys quote me if I, or you guys, huh? Okay, yeah, including the 12 existing that are in the back that they're purchasing as
Okay.
well.
I've got 2 or 3 concerns, and one of those is when a development of any kind comes, seeking this number and type of variances, to me, it's something that we need to look at very cautiously, because we have our codes and ordinances and things in place for a reason. When we start giving variances and making exceptions to those, whatever those are, sometimes it can be detrimental to the overall well-being of an area and or the community, because whether you like it or not, whether we agree or not, we begin to set precedent. And you just quoted some that we set when we allowed things to go in that were above the existing codes for height, as an example. Doing this doesn't necessarily set a precedent, but it does, because when they come back, when somebody else comes back later, you did it here, you did it here, you did it here, I'm asking for the same thing. So whether we like it or not, it does set precedent. If they reduce the number of stories in this facility, they could comply with the height requirement. If they reduce the number of stories, that reduces the number of units. They could comply with the parking requirements, I suspect. Would that be a fair assumption?
I would guess that would be the case. If they came back with, 3 stories, they may meet that parking requirement, yeah.
Which would eliminate a couple of variances for the height and the parking. It would also eliminate the encroachment onto Washington Street because of the necessary parking. They're trying to squeeze as many as they can out. That would alleviate that problem as well, I believe. It would also help with the traffic congestion, pedestrian and vehicular, in that area that we know is gonna happen. I recognize that all the students are not gonna go at 8 o'clock, but there's gonna be a large number of them moving back and forth across Washington. And I'm not as agile as they are, but it's still difficult to navigate that traffic on foot. And if you go to the light and stop traffic for pedestrians to cross, that further creates complications with the vehicular traffic that they're trying to interact with. It's my thought that this would be a good use for this property, but I fear we're trying to overbuild on this property in this area because of the things that the variances and the traffic and just the overcrowding in that specific area. That's a business decision, but in my opinion, we're trying to push the limits a little bit too far. From the staff point of view, are y'all recommending approval, or are you recommending approval because P&Z is recommending, or are you bringing P&Z's recommendation without a staff recommendation?
I'll bring a P&Z recommendation, but staff recommends the approval too.
Staff recommends approval also. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, I had a statement. I think that it's very fortunate that we didn't close that railroad crossing behind there on McNeil Street, because I think that would have been a huge problem had we closed that. So I think that's great. We didn't, that the council decided not to close that railroad crossing, because it would be a problem if we closed that.
Anything else,
Mr. Mayor,
Rick?
this is a public hearing.
Okay,
so-
we're gonna open a public hearing discussing case number PD 2019-001. We have one person, Stephen, wants to come and make a presentation to the council in favor of the development.
Thank you, Mayor, City
Yes, sir.
Council. I'm Stephen Helm with HS Development Group. I'm here with my partner Harold Soul. We're from Houston, developers of the project. Again, I want to just echo the sentiments that were made about Jeremy and his group. This is a complex project, a lot of moving parts, and he and his group did a great job working with us, and we think we've achieved design, setbacks, the plan development that achieve a balance for the city and for what we need to make the project viable. So I think it's too bad we don't have a color rendering in there, but I think the project is obviously going to be a cutting edge design and going to be a tremendous asset for the city as well as the university. We're going to try to tie the color of the brick and the purple into the color scheme, so we coexist with the university and are consistent with their color scheme. So we think it's going to be a tremendous asset. I want to say a couple of things about the traffic. We just completed a project in Houston, the University of Houston. It's 130 units and 380 beds. And we're on the corner of Elgin and Scott, very busy intersection. Student housing, one thing about building close to campus in a pedestrian-oriented location like this, students, the idea is that they're not going to use their car. They're gonna park their car and they're gonna walk. So vehicular traffic impact, I think, is gonna be at a minimum. And again, any kid that decides to use their car, it's not like a normal apartment complex where they're going to work at 8 o'clock in the morning, all leaving at the same time and coming home at the same time. So I don't think the impact on the traffic is gonna be much at all. We have a fairly sizable bike room with bike racks on the walls, fully climate controlled. We'll have a repair pedestal with tools and an air compressor, so we're really trying to promote the use of bikes and scooters as well. So,
You have any questions, Mr. Helm?
I have one, and I'm not familiar with the Houston area at all, so indulge me. Is the facility you built there on the campus or close proximity?
it's right across the street from the campus.
It's across the street from the
Right,
campus, okay,
yes.
all right.
So when we pick locations, we try to have, again, a pedestrian-oriented location that's walkable to the campuses.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else would like to speak in favor of the project? Hearing none, anybody want to have comments opposing the project? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move we approve ordinance 2019-0, what are we carrying?
02.
02.
Second.
Okay, Brady makes a motion that we approve City Ordinance 2019-002. And who made the second? Carla made the second? Okay. Okay. Any more discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of the ordinance, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
No,
Okay, we have one no. Ordinance passes. Thank you very much. The next item is, we're gonna remove item 4 for a later meeting. Public hearing on item 5. Thank y'all for coming tonight.
This is the real number 5, or?
The real number 5.
Okay,
That-
all right.
that one right
I just
there.
want to make sure, I didn't want to.
There you go. I'm glad we get along.
This one might be my favorite more than anything because we've been working on this since last January. This is the future land use, updating this. You know, as you can remember back, we've had a few zoning cases where our future land use maybe had been out of date. So we created a committee that was designed to update this future land use and not necessarily rework the whole thing, but really meet the need of the community as we've developed. We've changed some things, changed our vision a little bit. So the new comprehensive plan is a principal part of the city's overall ongoing planning process. Approval of the comprehensive plan by the city council established the vision and direction for the community as it represents important first steps toward achieving the city's stated goals. The plan should not be considered a static document. We will look at this probably every year with P&Z and just make sure that, you know, any developments that we've had, any changes of zoning, that we continue to update this document, make sure that we stay on task. The entire plan should be reviewed every 5 years, but like I said, we're gonna try to keep it up to date every year. The city, Stephenville was looking to update the future land use. You guys have picked a committee, and you guys didn't necessarily pick the committee, but you appointed the groups that would be a part of it, being Planning and Zoning Commission, Board of Adjustment, Parks and Rec Advisory Board, Stephenville Economic Development Authority, Stephenville Chamber of Commerce, Stedco. They led the update. And if I will just take another few minutes of your time tonight, I do want to recognize the people that helped on that committee because I think they spent numerous hours driving the community. I mean, I provided maps and said, hey, here's your homework before the next meeting, and they would spend 3-4 weeks at a time looking at areas, developments, and then we'd have a couple-hour meetings just going over what they reviewed. It was a very I thought a very thorough process, and they did an excellent job. And so I'm going to announce those groups that basically volunteered. So we picked the organizations. They submitted who they wanted representing them at this. P&Z did recommend approval of this at the January 16 meeting unanimously, but Jill Burke, Pam Littleton from Keep Stephenville Beautiful, from the ISD, Matt Underwood and Deborah Hummel, from Tarleton, Kyle McGregor and Kent Styron, from CETA, Shelby Slauson and Gerald Cook. From the Chamber of Commerce, we had Eric Hayden and Spencer Sly. From Stedco, David Baskett and Justin Hatchke. From Parks and Rec, Darren Trussell and Rita Cook. We had from the Citizens Committee, Mr. Malcolm Canute. So I applaud those people. They were very. We had great conversations with that. So you guys have in your packets, but just for kind of the record, the goals of the program we started out was have a full range of housing. Make sure we looked at the transportation, the land use in the areas. Try to promote economic development. Cultural and historical resource, we make sure we preserve those. Make sure we looked at parks and open spaces, kind of looked at the entries and how we wanted those to look in the future. The natural resources, agricultural resources, utilities and community facilities, and intergovernmental and regional cooperation. We had the time frame, we thought anywhere from 6 months to a year, and that's roughly what it took us. So here we are in February. So with that, you guys have that in your packet, the future land use map, and we recommend approval along with Planning and Zoning Commission.
Any questions for Jeremy? Hearing none, we'll go into public hearing regarding the updated city council or City of Stephenville Comprehensive Plan, section 4.2, future land use. Anybody want to speak in favor? Hearing none, anyone want to speak in opposition to the future land use plan? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and move to consider approval of update to the City of Stephenville Comprehensive Plan, section 4.2, future land use.
So moved.
Mark makes a recommendation or motion.
Brandon.
Brandon? Okay, any other discussion?
I just want to, Jeremy, you and everybody that's had a part of this, done a great job. The volunteers that helped you, but staff has put a lot of time into this too. Really appreciate the effort.
Jeremy, I think you ought to give all those volunteers at least a 10% pay increase.
Can we take out yours?
Well, they had a couple lunches, so I think we satisfied their payment requirement. So.
All right.
Thank them on our behalf.
That's right. We'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Same sign opposed. Motion passes. Thank you. Next item, 7. Brick Street District.
The Planning and Zoning Commission met on January 16th, unanimously voted on to recommend full council amending the Brick Street District. As you guys know, a few months back, 4 or 5 months ago, we had a joint workshop, and so we looked at the Brick Street designation. As came out of that was that we designated the Brick Street District that matched the historical district, and so that's what we have. In your packet, you will find in the, we'll say dark green, let's see if we got this. So the dark green or ugly green color there is the previously designated Brick Street District. And so what we've done is we've added to that, and everything in the historical district, which will be in blue, is the outline in blue. We're trying to add the brick streets. So the reds are the brick streets that will be preserved, upkept as we do street projects in those areas. As we start needing to update those, they will be repaired and replaced as brick streets. All other brick streets that we have throughout the community, we will not be replacing as brick streets. There's some part of that will be some cost savings. So because brick streets are very expensive to put back in. I don't know the number. I'm guessing a 2 to 1, or don't quote me on that, but I know it's significantly higher. So the idea is that we look long term. What's the best bang for our buck as we do that? But we still wanted to preserve our history of our community. Very similar to the Cowboy Capital, we want to preserve some of our history with the brick streets. And so what we have is a plan that as we redo streets and repair them, that we will repair them with brick streets.
Questions?
Jeremy, I've refreshed my memory. I think part of the square area has brick streets under the asphalt that's there now. TxDOT has in the works to redo Graham, I think from South Loop to Lingle Hill Road. Are we going to incorporate into this plan a salvage or saving of some of those brick areas, some crosswalks or something. I don't remember what that plan said.
Right. Before I go any further with that, I'm gonna recognize Mr. Nick Williams and Gene Calvert for helping with this program. They've been great with working with that. Probably any project I'm involved with, they're somehow involved. But what they've done, they've already talked to TxDOT about some of that, about salvaging those bricks. You know, TxDOT, they're gonna take them, and then they'll take them away out to the MSC so we can restore those. Part of with Graham, when we do that reconstruction with Graham Street, is we're going to try to accent some sidewalks across there, so they won't redo that road with brick because of the safety features. But they said they will entertain the idea of putting some accents like crosswalks across there, so we can still salvage some of the bricks and still preserve some of the history.
And that's important for the downtown area, I believe, and I had that in mind, but I wasn't sure. But thank all of y'all for working on that. I know that's a huge project, and this is one of the areas that because we are who we are, we seek to preserve some of the heritage that we have, and the brick streets are part of that heritage.
That's right. Well, a big project that we're also looking at is like Long Street, where there's been asphalt just put over the top of that. You know, so in this particular case, we're going to save significant by not going back with a brick street. But we will be able to salvage some of that brick that's part of it and use it in these districts that some of the brick is, you know, eroding away, and we're going to need to be repaired anyway. So I think it's good.
We also need to recognize Colonel Weldon and the Tarleton students who helped take those bricks and clean them up, the ones that are out at the MSC.
That's right. Yeah.
Any other comments, questions?
Will that move Long Street up as far as, and that might be a question for Nick, so
Mhm.
will that move them up on the list as far as getting repaired now that we're making a decision?
We're gonna talk about that next week
Okay.
at the Public Works Committee.
Any other questions? Now we'll enter into a public hearing regarding the amendment to Stephenville City Brick Street Districts. Anybody want to speak in favor of the change of the plan? Hearing none, anybody want to speak in opposition? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and move into consider approval of resolution 2019 R4 designating the city of Stephenville Brick Street District. Do I hear a motion?
So moved, Mayor.
Alan makes the motion, and Carla seconds it. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Same sign opposed. Motion passes. Consider adoption of the sidewalk improvement plan.
The Planning and Zoning Commission met on January 16, 2019, and unanimously voted to recommend to full council adoption of the Sidewalk Program. This plan, which has been in the works for months, is basically to successfully provide continuous sidewalk system throughout the community. We want to install sidewalks where the need is the greatest, so there'll be kind of a priority list, and there's a whole grading scale that goes with this program. Repair hazardous and deteriorated sidewalks, upgrade existing sidewalks, provide safe and efficient pedestrian movement, and meet ADA standards. Identify pedestrian corridors for creating preferred routing for schools, children, disabled residents, elderly, commuting and neighborhood trips. As you can guess, with benefits of the sidewalks, increased pedestrian travel downtown would be a plus for it. Schools will be able to use the system to make routing recommendations to their students. Reduce congestion and pollution associated with automobile traffic, and reduce road maintenance. Upgrading sidewalks to ADA standards will make city more accessible to all residents, and wherever possible and feasible, curbs may be installed with sidewalks, reduce illegal parking. So, I mean, one of the, this program won't be you see it overnight, as we redo street projects and have projects done, then we'll try to include sidewalks based on this program. And so, I want to give a big thanks to Nick and Gene for what they've done and help with this program. We had some, many conversations with this program. So we're excited that this will take place. We also have some sidewalk sharing programs that council, you guys have set aside in the budget in this past budget year, and we've already got one, and we got two other applicants that are looking at it. So if you go over to 240 East Long, you will see a sidewalk program that we offered. That's a 50-50 sidewalk matching grant that helped improve the sidewalk over there. And so it's already kind of seeing some works, you know, and I think hopefully gaining some energy.
I'd like to see the papers actually do some advertising on that program for us. It's a 50-50 split program where citizens can put in a sidewalk in front of their house, and the city will pay up to 50% of that cost. And so I'd like, if y'all could get with Jeremy and make sure that's broadcast pretty well, I'd appreciate that. Any questions for Jeremy?
I'd just like to thank Jeremy for his hard work on this, and Nick and Jean too, because I think this really adds to the quality of life in our city, and I'm glad to see us going in this direction.
Any other questions? We consider then approval of adoption of the sidewalk improvement plan.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve resolution number 2019-R-05, the sidewalk improvement plan.
Second.
Marks makes a motion, Carla seconds it. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Motion passes. Thank you. That the end of your,
I don't know, do I have to leave the podium? I mean,
no, remember you're gonna turn the lights out
We're gonna
tonight.
miss you.
Gonna turn out the lights. Okay, we're gonna jump back up to item Roman numeral 5. Tourism and Visitors Bureau. Carla Trussell, gonna make the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Tourism Committee met on January the 22nd. We had 4 requests for hot funds. 2 of those requests are from previous recipients of the hot funds. The first one is for the Charlton FFA Judging Invitational. Julie, did you want to make any comments on that? Or,
They are in their 49th year. They attract over 10,000 guests and several
and every
Several thousand
hotel
spend the
room is
night.
full, which is
Mhm.
the purpose of the hot funds.
It's a
to
wonderful
fill up our
program.
hotel rooms. So the committee recommended that we approve the request, which was for $3,500. So we're recommending to hold the entire council that we approve the request for $3,500.
Any questions for Carla? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the Charlton FFA judging in the amount of $3,500.
Hear a second?
Second.
Brady, want to take Brady's name as a second? Any further discussion? Proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Motion carries. Next item.
The second application was to the Charlton Stampede Rodeo, which is also an event we've sponsored in the past. In the past, they've asked for, we've sponsored them at a $7,500 level. The committee's recommending we increase the amount to $10,000. Julie, do you have anything else about?
They are in their 54th year. They are a big part of why we're the Cowboy Capital. They contribute so much to our community, and they also fill up the hotels and bring so much to our town.
So the recommendation from committee is for $10,000 to the Charlton Stampede.
Would Coach at Charlton like to make a comment?
I came because I wasn't able to come to that meeting, and I sent an assistant coach. My son decided to break his hand about an hour before y'all's meeting. But I appreciate the continued support, and our team is the largest in the nation, still, and we have 190 members this year, and I know that, they appreciate everything that you guys do to help us, and it costs a lot. You know, we host 17 colleges that weekend, and we have a lot of, continued support from you guys, and I just wanted to come tonight to say thank you personally.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Do I hear a motion to approve item 3?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve a hot fund amount of $10,000 to the Charlton Stampede Rodeo.
Second.
Sherry makes a motion and Mark seconds it. Any other discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Motion passes. Item 4.
The next application, the next application was from Extreme Team Roping. This is not a new event, but this is the first time they have requested hot funds. The committee recommends $2,000 towards this event and hot funds. And is somebody here from that event? Julie, did you have any comments about that event?
No.
The committee recommendation is $2,000 to Extreme Team Roping.
Hear a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we
Okay, or second? Alan? Sherry made the motion, Alan seconded. Further discussion? Proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye. Same sign opposed. Motion passes. Item 5.
The last application for hot funds is from the Wounded Warrior Benefit. This is a brand new event that's going to be held at, VW's Place. And we recommended that hot funds of $2,000 be used to support this event.
Any questions?
There was a lot of discussion in committee about this event.
And they are here.
Okay, so did you want to comment, tell about your event?
I think I pretty much let everybody in the committee know about it. Every day it's getting bigger and bigger. We're getting responses from all over, not only all over Texas, but the surrounding states around us. We've actually had people cancel because we weren't able to work with the hotels to get them hotel rooms. I know we had 2 vendors that were gonna be coming from Houston. They said that if we couldn't guarantee them hotel rooms, then they weren't gonna be able to make it.
So the hotel's already sold out?
No, they're not sold out. They're just not working with us. And we can't afford like I told you in the committee meeting, we can't afford to block the rooms and have that money come out of our benefit for blocked rooms. So, and the hotels, they won't give us a break on that 10. They're charging us $100 per room for 10 rooms. That's the only way we can block a room, or block rooms in a hotel. And then we're held responsible for it.
Okay, any other comments? Council, questions? Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor, move that we allocate $2,000 in hot funds to the Wounded Warrior Benefit.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Rhett seconds the motion. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Motion passes. By the way, y'all still have raffle tickets?
Yes, sir, we
There's
do.
a bunch of people here trying, that could need to buy some raffle tickets
We
for this
also
event.
have the red and white feather with our logo. We have decals that we're selling as well.
Be sure to catch these people before y'all leave, so hang around. You might get some more raffle tickets sold.
Okay, the committee also met and recommends approval of the budget for the Moolah Fest. And I will say that this budget will be offset, and it's hard since it's our first time to do this event, to know how much money will come back in. But we have sponsorships that will, come back to us and offset the budget. We have vendors that are renting booth space. We get a percentage of the balloon rides and we get a percentage of the carnival profits. So Julie, I don't know if you want to comment on the budget.
And beverage sales.
Beverage sales too.
And we've also been working with some of the businesses to offset our hard costs through in-kind contributions.
How do you feel about the sponsorship?
We're at 14,000 so far, and we're still working with our community, and it's early to them. But I think it'll be a really good turnout for sponsors.
I think we're all excited about it.
We are.
I talked to some folks today in Austin about it. They're excited. Got some people coming from Austin for it.
Yay.
Any other questions?
I do have a question here, and it's really not a question so much as a comment. I asked Julie earlier this week to, if she could provide any indication of what the potential economic impact an event like this would have. And Julie and Jeff Sanford put together a number and sent it out. And what I think my request would be that as we move forward with a project or an event like this, that we have something on paper, even if it's a guesstimate. We don't know, this is a first time event, but I think we need something that we can say, well, okay, we're gonna spend $100,000, but this is what we expect and what other communities have seen based on an event of this size. I think that needs to be a part of the presentation as we move forward. But, I mean, based on the number that Julie and Jeff sent out, and the number of people that are expected to attend, this is a wow for Stephenville, Texas. Thanks.
Why don't you give us that number, Mark?
$149 per person per day.
And how many people will we expect to come?
Other balloon festivals tell us at least 6,000.
So 6,000 people attending.
And what
Over 3 days? 2 days
Yeah.
or 3 days?
It's two nights and a day.
So 12,000.
Well, it's
It's incredible.
actually 3 nights of music,
Yes.
so it's really going to
The
start on
Techstar
Thursday
Ford
night with
kicks
the
off.
Techstar Ford music, so it's actually 3 nights.
Huge potential is the
It
point.
absolutely-
And I think that's, you know,
That's a great
And I
point.
forgot to mention that Julie and Jen and Karen did go to training on balloon festivals. They went to Plano and came back really excited about what they're doing and had lots of information to help them with the planning.
Those girls have been working really hard, and we've got a great team.
So we're all certified pilots now?
Close. We do have certificates. I'm not sure what they're for.
Other
I
questions?
don't know if they'll turn a balloon over to us.
Other questions?
Okay, we don't have to do anything about the budget.
We don't have to approve the budget
Do
tonight?
we have to approve? We
Yeah.
do have, it didn't say approve it here. So we
Okay.
have to approve the.
Do I have a motion to approve the budget?
So moved, Mayor.
second.
Brady makes the motion, Mark seconds it. Any other discussion? Ready to vote, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Thank you, ladies, for all that you're doing. This is exciting for the city of Stevensville. I understand. I just want to talk about the
You're
Balloon Fest.
welcome.
It's a great project.
Mayor's
Okay,
prerogative.
here we go.
Okay.
One more question, Mayor, if I
Oh, you-
might. Julie, I want to tell you how much I appreciate what you've done. One of the things that gives us concern sometimes is the TBDs, because it is an unknown. But we're working with a new project. It's completely new to us, and we're having to rely on outside sources for estimates on what we anticipate is going to come in.
That's correct.
And somehow we're making the leap of faith here that it will do at least what they say, if not better. But this is one of the things that we need to try, and I appreciate your efforts on this to put us in the game, so to speak, for events like this that haven't been here before, or if at all, not for many, many years. Thank you, and good luck.
Thank you. It's a team effort, though.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Carla, item 7.
Okay, this is the Moolah Fest and Hot Air Balloon event contracts. I'll let Julie explain the contract.
We are contracting with a balloon meister. That is a word. He's with Hill Country Ballooning out of Austin. And in the report, it breaks down all the things he's responsible for. He'll make the call on weather. He's ultimately the one responsible making the decisions on the ground for these balloons. He's vetting all the pilots that are participating. And he has wonderful contacts. He's very well respected, as we learned when we went to the conference in Plano. And he's handpicking some of the top pilots to come to Stephenville. His cost is $4,000, and that is the contract that's on the table right now.
So we will need a motion to approve.
Any
the
questions? Okay, we have a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve contract with Uplifting Adventures.
Barry makes a motion, I hear a second.
Second.
Sherry makes a second. Any further discussion? Proceed to vote, all in favor say aye. Same sign opposed. Motion,
Whoa. Yeah, we got the wrong name on that.
It's TEA promotion.
Yeah,
Oh, is it
TEA
wrong?
Promotions.
Well, that is the name on there. It's Hill Country, and then it's TEA Promotion. So it's the
But
same.
Uplifting's the next
Something
one.
different.
That's a different.
That's the next
one.
That's the next number.
That's the next one.
My bad, sorry, Mr. Brad, now.
that's okay.
Okay.
Okay, I'll amend my motion to include whatever,
TEA
whatever the
promotions.
TA promotions, so,
Okay, you're amending the motion.
yeah.
Okay. Brady amends his motion and Sherry Reek seconds it. Any other discussion? Do we have to vote on the amendment first then?
Yes.
Okay, we're proceeded to vote on the amendment. All in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The amendment passes. Now we go back and vote on the original motion.
Yes.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Motion passes.
Okay, the next item is an agreement with Uplifting Adventures Tethered Balloons, and I will do explain that agreement.
We have 2 tethered balloons coming, and the Uplifting Adventures company is bringing them. Tethered balloons are very large balloons, and they hold 10 to 15 people, and they are basically tied to the ground. They go up 40 feet and come back down the whole time, so they don't go off. They just stay in place. And the rides are $25 for adults, $15 for children. We get 30% of the cost for these back. His contract is $500 per balloon plus his expenses.
Any questions? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve contract?
Can I make that motion now, since it's the correct company finally?
Brady.
Thank you.
Brady's making the motion. Thank you, sir. Any second?
Second.
Sherry makes the motion, seconds the motion. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Same sign opposed. Item passes.
And again, I'd like to thank Julie, Jen, and Karen, because this has really been a team effort from the three of them. They all three went to the training in Plano. They've all three talked to vendors and people that are helping to organize this. It's an exciting event. Social media is just going wild with it. And with the press here, I did want to say that one of the cool things is if the community wants to get involved in it, property owners, they can put a white sheet out on their property, and then the balloons know that they're welcome to land on that property. So I think that's a really cool thing to get
Yes.
the community involved. So
Thanks for mentioning
thank you so much for all your hard work, and that completes the tourism.
Thank you, Carly. You've done a
Thank
good
you.
job with that committee, and Julie and staff, thank you very much. Okay, nominations committee report. Red Harris.
Thank you, Mayor.
Harrison, excuse me. I didn't finish-
We'll get that right.
We'll get it right someday.
We had two meetings in January, one on the 15th and the other one on the 28th. During the 15th, January 15th meeting, Carla Trussell was elected chair in my absence. Also by unanimous vote, Jennifer Edwards was recommended for the Tourism Board. It was also decided that all other appointments would be deferred until after individual interviews. During the 28th meeting, interviews were conducted with 4 individuals in person and 1 over the phone. Discussion took place over the need for all 4 alternates for the Board of Adjustments. It was decided to only fill alternate places 1 and 3. The result of the 2 meetings were that the nominations committee makes the following recommendations. Jennifer Edwards to be appointed to the Tourism Board, Vance Wade to be appointed to place 5 of Planning and Zoning, Robert Nemo to be appointed to place 3 of the Board of Adjustments, Adam Cash to be appointed as alternate 1 to the Board of Adjustments, Cecilia Willett to be appointed to alternate 3 of the Board of Adjustments, Toby O'Neill to be appointed to place 1 of the Building Board. And if there are no other questions, that concludes my report.
Do we have to vote on that tonight?
Yes.
Want those? Can we do it as, back?
Yes.
So we can accept all. Does anybody have any questions about who's been nominated? Any concerns? Is it okay if we vote on all of them at the same time? Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve all of the nominations as presented, Mayor.
Second.
Alan makes the motion, and Mark seconds it. Any further discussion? We're voting on all the nominations made by the committee that was just reported by Rhett. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Thank you very much. Is that in your report?
That's it.
And my report. Sherry Zachary, Parks and Leisure Services Committee report.
Well, the committee met in executive session. There was no action taken, but it was recommended and asked of staff that they proceed with further research.
Anybody have any questions for Sherry? Hearing none, okay, thank you very much.
Concludes my report.
Public Health and Safety Committee, great.
That's gotta be a record.
Hey, there you go.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple items real quick the committee took up back on the 15th of January. The first one being we considered the approval of a permit for Caraflight. That's required by ordinance for them to conduct business within our city. And that permit was approved by the committee. So at this time, we make a motion to full council that we approve the ambulance permit for Caraflight.
Second.
Brady makes a motion, Mark seconds it. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Thank you. Number 3.
Number 3, and this is in conjunction with the other things discussed at the committee meeting, was beginning October 1 of this year, the Judge Shawnee Bass, Justice of the Peace, no longer conduct municipal services for the city of or municipal court services for the city of Stephenville. Therefore, she places on notice back, I think, at the end of last year that we were going to have to go out and retain that service. The city was. So at this time, the only agreement we have in front of the council that we need to take up for tonight is an agreement between the municipal court and the city of Stephenville in this case that's going to amend, I guess, some previous agreements we've had in place and only run this agreement until October one, or I guess maybe September 30 of 2019.
September 30th, that's the.
Yep. And so I would make a motion that we approve the agreement as presented to full council tonight.
Second.
Ray makes a motion and Carl has seconded. Any further discussion?
We're not expecting any type of expenses to increase out of this.
Not this time, I don't
That's
believe.
right.
Any other questions? Proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Motion passes. Thank you, Brady. Monica Harris, monthly budget report.
Mayor, Council, this is our budget report for the period ending December 31st, which is 3 months into our fiscal year. Our target on our budget, revenues and expenditures would be 25%. So far, it appears that we're on track where we anticipate to be. For our property taxes, we received $2.1 million in the month of December, which is $93,000 or a 3.2% decrease over the funds collected through December of last year, which is a little bit smaller, but not really a point for concern yet. On our sales tax, we received $518,000 in sales tax in December, which is $8,000 under our target budget, but we did receive $121,000 or 7.99% more than through this time last year. For our hot funds, we received $26,000 in hotel occupancy tax revenue. Keep in mind the first reports and payments for the fiscal year aren't due until January. Last year, we received $49,000 in hotel occupancy tax revenue, and that's because we had a few more entities that reported earlier than required. We spent $37,000 in hotel occupancy tax funds through December. Last year, it was $10,000. The differences have to do with our, of course, wages and then the marketing and advertising we've been doing. For the target budget for our operating revenue is $6.4 million. We received $7.4 million. Which is $1 million over our budget. This is a result of our property taxes because they were due by January 1st. The target budget for our operating expenditures is $5.1 million. We expended $4.9 million through December, which is $197,000 under our budget, our target budget. The operating revenue received last year was $7.3 million, compared to the current year's $7.37 million, which is $71,000 increase, and that's due to sales taxes and investment interest. And then the operating expenditures last year were $4.82 million as compared to the current year's $4.87 million, resulting in a $42,000 increase. The additional expenditures included for our balanced scorecard training, our salary survey, the special election, and wages and advertising in our hot fund. And then for our new programs, of course, we've the carpet in City Hall was installed, the dump trucks for the street and utilities have been ordered, and the pressure washer trailer for landfill has been purchased. Are there any questions?
Questions for Monica?
I've got one just because it's been bothering me for a couple of months. If you look at your year-to-year comparison on sales tax revenue, September, any idea why that's an anomaly?
Not, when you say an anomaly, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, it's, if you look at it, there's only 1 month where we didn't increase our sales tax revenue.
Oh, okay, okay.
This year over last year.
Right.
Have you heard anything about that?
I haven't, and when I look at it, one thing that I noticed is in August was considerably higher, for this year.
Because Tarleton students come back and they're buying out Walmart.
Actually, the September numbers are the July sales.
Right,
Oh.
yes.
They're 60 days behind.
Right, yeah. This is just when we get it. So, but if you'll look at the August, when you look at what went up from July last year to August last year, and then July this year to August this year, you'll notice that there's a bigger increase. So I think there might have been some earlier payments received, or the year before could have been that there was some later payments received, that there were some delinquencies. So that's why I didn't get to,
It is sales tax.
yes.
Well, I just wondered if maybe there was an opportunity for, business expansion and retention for our Economic Development Corporation to really push the midsummer sales in Stephenville to I just don't know. It just jumps out because everything else is up and that one's upside down.
We can look at it a little bit more.
Okay, thanks. I just didn't know if you heard something.
I have not heard anything, no.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Alan, do we have to accept the report?
No.
Okay, thank you very much, Mark. Stephenville Type B Economic Development Authority, Mr. Sanford is in Houston, Texas, so Ashley, would you make a presentation?
Yes, I'm happy to, Mayor, Council, good evening. Are we ready to go here? We're going to keep this short and sweet, but I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you this evening. First off, with a marketing effort, the ICSC, which is the International Council of Shopping Centers, they held an event, the Red River State Deal Making and Conference, and Jeff was able to attend that this year. And so what a difference a year made. 1 year ago I went and I was hustling to make contacts and get Stephenville stuff out to just try to have a face behind our name. This year Jeff was the hunted. There were people who had appointments lined up, who had opportunities to sit down with him, discuss opportunities and looking at future development here in Stephenville. So we were able to pass out and distribute updated information to over 250 exhibitors. This is, I'm not sure if this will go to the slideshow view, but this is a picture of the event. You can just kind of see the caliber and the size of the event. And from that, attending that event, we have held subsequent meetings in our office. We've had national retailers visit the region. We've had site developers in discussing investment and land acquisition, as well as construction managers who have developed a list of questions that are going right over to our planning and building department. So we are excited to move forward with this as we develop Stephenville. And if this goes, thank you, Ashley. One of my favorite pictures here, I want to let you see. You know, last year, like I said, I was striving to just get our name out. This year, this is a retail development who is advertising. Stephenville is on their banister, so every person that was in attendance there saw our development opportunity listed as a future project. So. In workforce development, the workforce initiative started when we became aware of a need. Several of our local manufacturers were surveyed, and that resulted with us understanding that there were hundreds of jobs available in our market. So staying in touch with HR departments around here, that yielded our attendance at the Fort Hood Mega Career Fair. This was just a picture of our table we set up there, and this is kind of a snapshot. They had roughly 4,000 in attendance, so this was exiting soldiers that will be transitioning soon, their spouse or family, and other civilians that were job seekers. So because of continued conversations with HR departments, we were able to create a matrix to determine skill sets and then areas of interest. And everyone that came by and looked and showed interest in Stephenville, I gathered that data, and I was able to send out hundreds of names of folks interested in making Stephenville their next home. So we've been in touch with manufacturers and their HR departments. That email is readily available. And has been sent out to them, and we have done follow-up with those that we met at this event, and we continue to look forward to assisting them in this transition. Building and cultivating relationships is also something that we take pride in at CETA. We want to get out beyond the office walls, and that's part of our daily charge. And so we were able to host Janie Havel, who is the Community Relations Director for the North Texas region of Economic Development and Tourism, along with Lauren Hall, who is the new field staff rep for the Texas Department of Agriculture. And we wanted them to see firsthand what some of Stephenville's highlights and needs were. So we took them around and showed them some of our high points and low points. We also allowed them an opportunity to meet our downtown merchant board of directors, and in doing so, we've started conversations there with hopeful intentions to see programs develop and come from that. On that note, we actually at that meeting were able to discuss the drag in the fall, in the summer months, that not only do our downtown merchants experience, but everybody out through Washington. And so we have started conversation on what can we do to push summertime expenditures and to help promote that economic driving force to aid during that time. So we will continue working on that and follow up. And also in conjunction kind of with the Sidewalk project, the facade program right now is focused on that historic downtown district in celebration of that nomination. Miss Deidre just completed hers on the corner there, Cowboy Way Travel, the repointing. So we look forward to, we're reaching out, communicating, and sharing information with everyone in that area as well. And then finally, Entrepreneurs of ERATH. This was that little meeting. Entrepreneurs of ERATH is upcoming. And I attended the organizational meeting for all the partners involved with that yesterday. And Dr. Shao, whom y'all might remember, he was here and presented a month ago. He's asked to still encourage. They only have 8 applications, and they're looking to double that. And time has not run out, so people can still enter. And if you know any entrepreneurs that are ready to launch or expand a business, let's encourage them to do so. Also, CETA is here to help with any questions or filter any information or contact to anybody who is interested. And also, specifically to council, I was asked if any of you guys would like to be involved by either mentoring, offering professional in-kind services, or serving as a judge. Please let me know, and we'll make sure that happens. And lastly, our legislative day at the Capitol is February 19th. Press release and some emails and directs notes have gone out. We're looking forward to that day. Hope that everyone can join us and attend. If you go to our website, stephenvilleeda.com, there's a link there to register, or you can find it on our Facebook page as well. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions for Ashley?
I did have a question that came to mind when you were talking, and I don't know if it's for you or for Julie.
Yes, ma'am.
But when you had the lady come last year and speak from the office of the governor,
Yes.
she said she had funds available for events such as Moolah Fest
Mhm.
that reached out beyond just Stephenville. Have we contacted her? Have we followed up on that?
Yes, and that was her specifically again that had returned, and so Julie and I will be in conversation about following up and attaching
So
ourselves.
we may can get some other
Yes.
funds for that.
Mhm.
And then I had one other question. The compensation task force that CETA had, what's the purpose or goal of that task force?
The compensation task force, I believe, is in conjunction kind of with the city's overall salary survey. And so with y'all doing that as a project, our CETA board, since we're involved under the umbrella of the city, has put the compensation packet plan or team together to evaluate salaries for staff.
So you are also doing a study similar to the city in conjunction with it?
No, it would just be in addition to, so that we're ready and prepared to assist. It's not anything in addition, financially or whatnot. Ms. Slauson might want to speak to that if she would.
We're not doing a separate study. We were just preparing to participate in the city's study
Mhm.
and to prepare for our upcoming budget year and how we address personnel issues going forward with the city council. Okay, thank you.
It's being
That's
done
good.
through subcommittee, correct?
Yes, sir. A subcommittee. Mhm.
Any other questions?
No.
I have a couple things I want to say about that, Ashley, if you don't mind.
Sure.
The job fair in Fort Hood is a big project. I appreciate you taking that bull by the horns on that one. Particularly Don Nicholas, which is Roger Williams' field office staff, our U.S. representative from the southern part of Stephenville, Texas, is the one heading that up, and is a great idea. We have so many open positions in Stephenville. I think we will get some good people to move to Stephenville, so I appreciate you taking that on. The other thing is, I'm going to mention now, Brandon, instead of at the very end, since we have some folks here, I'm going to turn it over to Brandon. I'll make a comment. Brandon, Councilman Huckabee, and Jeremy, and Jeff Sandifer and I were meeting the other day, and we were talking about development. And so I asked Brandon if he would, and staff would start doing some tours and taking current landowners, developers in town that are people interested in developing, and take them on some tours and see if they'd like to jump in the middle of it. And Jeff was there, and so I'm gonna let Brandon just talk about that for just a minute, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great event. First off, I want to thank Jeremy and Jeff for giving up their time and some some citizens that we've met with. I also want to offer, if anybody else is out there and wants to meet with us, please contact me anytime. But we're planning and we're development, and that's what I'm the chair of, and that's what SEED is looking for, and that's what Jeremy's job is. And so we went out and we met with some people, we looked at sites, we talked about thoroughfare plans, we talked about what they wanted to do with their land, because there's large chunks of land in the middle of our city, and how could we, what is their vision for it? What could the city do to help them develop that, or is there something we're doing blocking their path? It was a great learning for me. I think Jeremy and Jeff would say the same. We've got a couple more that we're gonna do and kind of continue this. You know, if you're not planning, you're planning to fail. And what we're gonna try to do with all this is come to our committee, come to the council with some concrete plans that'll be living plans, but some plans for how we can grow our town in a smart way. I mean, look at tonight. We had the sidewalk plan. We had a little bit of our history with the brick streets. We had a new $20 million development that's coming in. So it's the city of Champions. It's a great time to be in Stephenville, and I thank you guys again, the people that met with us, and anybody else, we'd love to meet with you. So.
And two last things that I'm going to say it now, are this information that we talked about earlier. I just want to notify, this is, for the paper, they can publish this as well. City of Stephenville is notified that we've been selected to receive the Downtown Revitalization Grant. Jen initiated that project. We had somebody that we got some assistance from in Austin to make sure that walked through. And I received a letter from our Ag Commissioner, Sid Miller, which started the top of the letter, it wrote in, "Woo-hoo." I saw him the other day at a store. I was walking out, he was walking in, and he came up and shook my hand and said, "Congratulations." And I said, "Okay, now where's the next $500,000?" He said, "Make an application, we'll see if we can't make that happen." So thanks to Sid Miller for what he did. Thanks to Todd for his assistance in Austin. Particularly Jen, thank you for what you did and make the project ready to go. Also, the council's already aware of this, and I'm not sure it's made public yet. I want to say thanks to Nick Williams and Sarah Tankersley. We were notified today that we have been awarded a grant for $1.98 million from the General Land Office of Texas. The grant was for drainage improvements for the entire neighborhood from Alexander to Lillian to Long Street along the South Loop. It's an attempt to address the disaster flooding identified in the 2016 floods. We have a $20,000 match to make that work, which is a pretty good return on your investment. That's about 0.1%. It's pretty good return. So thank you, Nick and Sarah, for what y'all did, and for the money. Now we have a couple more projects like that one over there behind the Spring Bouquet area back over there, and there's another project we need to look at as well. And that's one of the reasons for us going to Austin for our Stephenville Day is anybody wants to come, sign up. You'll get to see how your city is represented in Austin, but also we're going to actually have assignments, and everybody that goes on council is going to have an assignment. Go walk around and say, your job is to go get us $500,000, $1 million. And I told the folks in Austin, particularly our senator, Pat Fallon, I met with him last week, and he said, "What will be success?" I said, "No less than $5 million." And he says, "Let's go get it." So Pat will help us with that as well, and I hope he's listening. So I want to make that report. Okay, next item, consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve of consent as presented.
Mark moves we approve the consent agenda. Sherry seconds it. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Motion, the consent agenda is approved. Comments by city manager, excuse me. You got to change title here.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I wanted to remind everybody, that the last day to file for a place on the May ballot is Friday, February the 15th. That's a week from this coming Friday, 10 days from today. We have city council meetings committee meetings on Monday, February the 11th, beginning at 5:30. We have a city council planning and zoning commission workshop to discuss or to learn about impact fees. They're very basic steps. It's called Impact Fees 101. That's Tuesday, February the 12th at 5:30. We're also going to have a called meeting that night for hopefully an item that we're gonna discuss in executive session a little bit later, and for the item discussed earlier tonight on the, tourism, the folks that weren't here for the tourism.
Okay.
We're closed for President's Day on February the 18th, and the 19th is Stephenville Day at the Capitol, and you and Ashley have done a much better job describing it than I could.
Comments for city council members, Mark? You're good. Carla?
Well, kudos to Nick and Jen for getting those grants for us. Thank you, that's awesome. And I wanna encourage everybody to sign up for the Signal Day on the 19th at the Capitol. Join us on the bus to go to Austin.
Brady?
No comment.
Red?
No comments, Mayor.
Sherry? Brandon? We talked enough already. All right. In compliance with the provisions of the Texas Open Meetings Law, Subchapter D, Government Code, Vernon's Texas Civil, or Code, Texas Codes annotated, in accordance with Section 551.087, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations, Charlton Crossing, and Section 551.074, personnel matters, annual evaluations. We'll be back.